Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn down the music for a minute, but keep it here because I wanted to go ahead and while I'm getting the video loaded and getting everything set up, I wanted to tell you guys a bit of a story because shit got pretty interesting over the past couple of days. So, yesterday, or the day before yesterday, my best friend, or one of my best friends, whom I've known since I was about 13 years old, hit me up. And we met each other online. And it was just, if you guys remember, what was it? My yearbook. Yeah, I ended up meeting her through that when we were growing up. And long story short, I decided to go ahead and drive down there because she said that she was going to be moving out of the area for about a year. And so, yeah, I drove down, and it took me about 5 to 6 hours. I think it was closer to 6 hours because of some pretty severe traffic and some weather conditions. And then on the way back, oh my god, which I left today, by the way. Wait. There we go. Okay. Wait. That doesn't seem like it's working. Um, that's not. Oh, that's music. Okay. I was looking at the wrong thing. Anyway. Um. Where the hell was I? On the way home. Um. I live in Washington, just so you guys know. And, it decided to snow pretty goddamn hard in Washington the past few days. And I'm honestly just glad I made it fucking home alive today because that was, like I said, 5 to 6 hours of driving. And there were a few times that I was drifting like I was in fucking Initial D or something. And it was very much not a comfortable thing. So, um, just be happy that I'm here. I'm sorry that I'm so goddamn late. I know I said that I would be here at 2 p.m., but life happened. Life happened pretty goddamn hard. And what made it worse was that the reason, like I said, the reason that I visited was that she's been one of my best friends for over 10 years at this point. And uh, yeah, I just I felt that it was important that I go ahead and see her while I could before before I don't really have a chance to. At least not for quite some time. Hang on, I'm just finalizing some settings. That is not how I wanted that to be. Full no default window capture. Unlock that asset. Oh, it was just outstretched. Okay. And then let's go ahead and lock that back up. Where's the chat? Sorry guys, I'm finalizing some settings. It's still set to the settings for Resident Evil DS, and let's go ahead and drag that up so I can actually see everything. There we go. Alright, let's go ahead and disable that, enable that, And let's go ahead and disable studio mode. Stop recording. I didn't want to record in the first place. Disable studio mode. Go live. Let's go live. Okay. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Thank you for showing up. I apologize again for my tardiness, my severe tardiness, because this was supposed to start almost 8 hours ago now. But, life kind of happened. And so you'll be able to see that in the archive when this is finished processing. But yeah, for anyone who missed and is just now tuning in, long story short, one of my best friends is moving away for quite some time, about a year, and I wanted to go ahead and see her before she left and take advantage of the opportunity while I had it. Even though in hindsight I should have waited. She ended up telling me that she was delaying her plans by about by a couple weeks, and so yeah. But shit's in hindsight, you know. It's not something that I could have changed. I'm sorry to hear that, Kane. I don't really know what to tell you, but I'm here for you, bud. Let's go ahead and start the stream. Now that I've gotten that story out of the way, let's go ahead and start the stream. Oh wait, that's the wrong video. I accidentally decided to fucking stream the wrong video. God damn it. Published, Kojima's Deception. Part 3. There we go. I just realized what the other issue was. Let's go ahead and rewind it. It was set to the wrong audio device. There we go. Alright.
Death Stranding 待たせたな
From sapiens to ludens. We are homo ludens, or those who play. From the moment we enter this world, we instinctively invent ways to have fun, and share our inventions with those around us. We are not asked to do this, nor do we need reasons to create. It is simply who we are. We find one another and compete with one another. We laugh together and cry together, all while playing together. Our experiences bind us and liberate us. To share our most valuable experiences, we create stories, invent tools, and evolve the art of play. Play has been our ally since the dawn of civilization. Playing is not simply a pastime, it is the primordial basis of imagination and creation. Truth be told, Homo ludens, those who play, are simultaneously Homo faber, or those who create. Even if the earth were stripped of life and reduced to barren wasteland, our imagination and desire to create would persevere beyond survival. It would provide hope that flowers may one day bloom again. Through the invention of play, our evolution awaits. Kojima Productions. We are Homo ludens. We are those who play. Hideo Kojima. Okay. With that said, I have to say, this is by far, at least this part, by far is my favorite intro out of the entire series. Because I hadn't really gone to their website and really done much digging. And finally, I ended up going there because I found a piece of evidence which I forgot to show in this video, but I will show in part 4. But there's a V at the bottom of their website. It's very odd. Just sitting there at the bottom of the page. That's pretty much, yeah. It wasn't unfinished or it was left unfinished deliberately is pretty much the best way to look at it. It's really hard to tell until we actually get official word. I really, really, really hope, as a lifelong Metal Gear fan, that this is the final Metal Gear game, and Kojima can finally lay it to rest, to ultimately reach what he's wanted to do, which is something completely different, not just produce Zoe, or Zone of the Enders for those who aren't as familiar with it. And that's correcting myself from the last stream where someone's like, oh my god, you pronounced Zoe as Zone of the Enders. Because I actually kept saying it as Zone of the Enders. But, anyway, let's go ahead and continue. Hello everyone, my name is Tyson, and welcome back to my series, Kojima's Deception. What you've just heard is the mission statement of Kojima Productions, and it will be the foundation upon which the rest of this video will be built. Also, I forgot to say, yesterday, it was supposed to actually come out the day before, but yesterday, the edit for the first stream of Kojima's Deception, the first commentary stream, I should say, it ended up getting canceled as far as the upload because I accidentally hit the power button on my PC, and because I was heading out to leave, which I shouldn't have. I should have just let it fall asleep, but it is what it is. So that will be coming out tomorrow, and you guys will be able to enjoy that, since this is going to be the last Kojima's Deception stream until the next episode of Kojima's Deception comes out, for obvious reasons. This is the last episode that exists currently. Hang on. Oh, I haven't noticed the V on their website. Did you see the V in their Russian 2055 gameplay? I have never seen it all. It's generally spelled ZOE as just the acronym, but yeah, someone was like, I can't believe he actually pronounced Zone of the Enders and spelled it out as ZOE. But anyway, I just wanted to get that out before I forgot. This is likely going to be the most important video in the series. The part 4 will be important for how it delves into the elements of social media, as well as Kojima's other connections. In this video, however, I'm going to try and mostly stick to things that are directly in the games, and how they could be potentially based in virtual reality, or more accurately, were built for a late recontextualization that completely reworks the perception of both the Metal Gear Solid and Silent Hill series. Before we go any further, all of the theories presented in the video are just that, theories. If you have a problem with a theory, make a comment that points out flaws and I will take the criticism to heart. Even then, please take into consideration that this series is entirely conjecture or speculation, whichever term you prefer, and more than that, it's made for fun. It's basically fanfiction. I don't consider any of this definitive fact, only potential outcomes of this clear ruse Kojima has set up. With that said, if you don't believe Kojima has a highly ambitious vision for Death Stranding that far exceeds what this or any other medium has accomplished, and that if not officially, it's spiritually Silent Hills, you probably shouldn't be here because you're clearly ignoring solidified evidence, with the paintings especially. You can fight against it all you want, but that's pretty clear to me that Kojima is still working with the same deck of cards that he started with. That location scouting has been utilized for Death Stranding, and that is no coincidence. Enough preamble. It's the time you've all been waiting for. The highly anticipated part 3. No, this is not a new episode. What this is essentially a behind-the-scenes look at some of the thoughts while also treating the stream as a questions and answers session. So, if you've had any major questions about the series, or if while watching the stream you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. In the meantime, every once in a while I'm going to go ahead and pause it, aside from when I'm asked questions or someone comments and I want to comment on that, and go ahead and fill in some gaps, because I couldn't really explain everything when creating the series, and I couldn't really explain my my motivations behind certain things. And so I figured that a commentary stream would be the best way to do it, because I'd be able to directly interact with you guys and then later turn it into an edited stream. Pardon me. Yeah, that way you guys can, if you've already seen the videos, you can just get the commentary. And if you can recognize the still frames, you can follow along. So, anyway, let's go ahead and continue. 3. If you're here, you probably should have watched the prologue, parts 1, 2, and 2.5 of the series. So, I mean, okay, so that's a difficult question to Seraphim. It's really hard to say exactly what Death Stranding is going to be, because 1, there's so many theories. 2, so many of those theories are rather valid. The Death Stranding is Metal Gear theory. The Death Stranding is Silent Hills theory. The Death Stranding is just its own fucking game theory. You know, these... It's also ambiguous. It's also... There's so many questions left to be answered. But, in my opinion, as a theorist, I feel like it's both. I feel like Kojima, in Kane's words, actually, Kane Damo, he said that, actually sharing my second, or what was it, the add-on? The side-up, rather, I mean. Yeah, he shared the add-on, or the side-up, and called it the Grand Unifying Theory. And I'll have a link in the comments, unless Kane wants to comment with it, in which case I'll approve it. Don't do it in chat just because it'll be more difficult, but go ahead and just comment with that, and I will go ahead and approve it. If I don't remember to, that is. I'll try to remember to do that at the end of the stream. But, yeah, long story short, I feel like Kojima is not in all cases directly, but in the very least on a meta level trying to reach fans to think more esoterically, I guess is the best way to put it, or existentially, and think about the meta implications of playing a video game. What that character is going through, what you are doing to that character. Being the demon that possesses the main character. You know, these things are often overlooked, and I should say more often than not entirely. I can't even think of any other examples really other than Kojima that really dig into the player versus character connection in the fourth wall sense as much as Kojima does. But yeah, so backing up, obviously, I've said it in, I think I said it in this video, I said it in part 2.5, and even in the side up, but long story short, my idea is that Kojima is trying to end Metal Gear Solid once and for all, and give Silent Hill a truly worthy origin story, simultaneously, by recontextualizing Silent Hill and Metal Gear both as virtual reality. And he made this so simple for himself. He made this so simple for himself because he set so many cues to make the games feel like virtual reality by breaking the fourth wall and directly addressing the player. And he's kept this as, I feel like, a dirty secret for a long time. And it's only been MGSV that he's finally, like a serial killer who's been killing for too long, setting out breadcrumbs to try and be found out. It's fucking wild, man. I honestly don't know what else to say, but I'm astonished that Kojima has this level of depth to his creation, and it's been an honor to be part of the ruse. Even if the ruse ends up being just a fan fabrication, it was an honor to be a part of it, because it was too much fun, man. There was too much fun trying to come up with what Kojima was thinking and trying to connect the dots and trying to go from abstract concepts that are so bizarre that no one could be interested to, rather well-connected theories. I would say part 1 and 2 were very abstract because I was still learning. I was definitely still learning. I hadn't even gone to MBGO yet. And then the prologue is really where things started to solidify, because Cypher stepped in and became a second set of eyes aside from Chef Umaril. And while Chef is great, Cypher has a lot more time on his hands, to be fair. Long story short, it became a lot more simple to get direct feedback, not only constantly, but on a very critical level. And so it made me really think about things. It made me really question things, like my own thought process. It's not just what I'm seeing. It really... Mr. Tingle. Yeah. I'll finalize this really quick. It really made me think about things from a different perspective. Not only consider what I initially see, but also consider other sides of the argument, like all the things that Cypher brings up. And I generally try and at least notify when it's solely a Cypher idea, because so much of it is just collective. It's hard to actually identify what's whose idea. But it's still, I try and credit when it's due, in the very least. When it's not something that it's almost impossible to nab who came up with the idea, or it just starts becoming petty and not about the goal, which is to find the truth and play Kojima's game just to have fun in the very least. So like, for instance, when Cypher has a piece, like for the best example I can give is the red and blue ogres. That was one of my favorite pieces to do, which we'll get into that here pretty shortly. What was it? Also in this video, Absolutely Nuclear's write-up on the color theory in Metal Gear Solid V, which I then am going to be translating into a Metal Gear Survive Ultimate Analysis after I get the game. I can do an Ultimate Analysis of the cutscenes, but I feel like that wouldn't be fair to the game as a whole. So I do really want to get the game before I end up going to the Ultimate Analysis territory. I've watched the full series of cutscenes on someone's YouTube channel. I can't remember which. I'll link it in the description. But yeah, let's go ahead and just keep going. Wait, hang on. What do you think about the community manager's response from Remedy Entertainment about Sam for Death Stranding? I honestly can't remember which response. So if you could remind me, please, that would be amazing. Um, I've been all over the goddamn place over the past few days, and so I honestly, I'm just trying to keep this fucking stream together. Well, mate, don't go overboard, man. Don't kill yourself, please. But do what has to be done as far as finishing projects. All right. Well, I think you should be able to send me a direct message or go on my channel and send it in the community tab, and then I'll be able to review it. Yeah, dude, you did. It was an honor for you to share my video and make such a great add-on to the series. I'm kind of thinking about looking at that and potentially making it a part of the series if you're down with it, and I'll of course credit you. I want to reread it because it's been a little while, but I kind of like Absolutely Nuclear. I like giving a platform to those who are just on Reddit, which is a strictly, other than sharing YouTube videos and other videos, a text-based and image-based board or website. And so it makes portraying concepts like this to people who have less patience or have less time, less willing to really dig into these things, and makes it so that these concepts aren't being explained. And so that's honestly a big motivation of why I made this series, why I decided to go ahead and tackle Kojima's Deception, because there's no one else other than like one guy who is making voiced, or two guys I should say, who are making voiced Kojima Ruse content. One of them happens to be Russian and the other happens to be Spanish. So I'm the only English one as far as I fucking know. And then I think it was Gaming Bolt, but they're not even rusers. They just fucking, they do their own thing. They just have the best way I can describe it, establishment concepts. But, it's still cool to have at least one other person fucking talking about this shit verbally. Anyway, let's go ahead and continue. The side up is important as well, like the rest of the main segments, as it does have information of its own. Though, if you have to skip any of the parts, I would recommend skipping part 1, as it mostly recaps stuff from Python and Selkin. If you still feel like watching without catching up, don't let me stop you, but you're missing a lot of context I've already given. Anyway, the time has come. Roll the introductory segment.
Washing out the blood, tonight, and I've tried to give you what you want. What is it that you want? Despair, with not a word to say. A routine, red light, suggest or sit and burn a light. We'd rather burn and fly, but I ain't gonna be here too long, too long. No, I ain't gonna be here too long, too long. No, I ain't gonna be here too
Kojima.
so good at fooling on, so good. We often fool ourselves. We think twice.
Well,
And
I had a special surprise prepped and everything. But it looks to me like your hands are full. It's no biggie. We can always tweak the rules a bit.
suggest or sit and burn a light. There's no wrong, there's no right, and I ain't gonna be here too long, too long.
Shit! I was choking on a piece of fudge, and I was trying to clean up the spit, and I accidentally fucking hit the spacebar. God damn it. All right, there we go. That is basically the concept, Ready Boy. Oh, you're good, dude. All you missed was my fucking ridiculous story of how I got here today. And you can check that out in the archive when this is all done. You can rewind if you want to check it out, but I'm glad you made it here.
Once there was an explosion, a bang which gave rise to life as we know it. And then came the next explosion. An explosion that will be our last. Ah, yeah.
Pardon me. I didn't mean to unmute myself as I burped, but what I wanted to say was that part of the trailer where the computer skipping sound becomes incredibly overwhelming. That's entirely intentional. I hope you know. The point is to kind of bring light to the idea of you potentially being brainwashed through the series. And tasty. It is some pretty good fudge, I will say that. But yeah, to bring attention to the oh shit, what was he saying? God damn it. I lost my train of thought. Oh my goodness. Well, when I think of it again, I will come back to this. This is something that I touched on in my side op, but I'm going to go into great detail about here. I think I remembered. Okay, so yeah, it was the part that overwhelms the senses, essentially, is the best way I can describe it. Because you've got the audio ringing in your ears, you've got Sam trying to recover from the crash, and then suddenly you've got the giant, and then the explosion, and suddenly Sam is back into the game. That's kind of how I imagine Death Stranding is going to feel. I mean, it's an artist's interpretation for sure, but it is kind of how I view what to expect out of Death Stranding, based on all of the trailers that we've seen up to this point. I think it would be a little bit upset if it turns out to be nothing. For sure. It would hurt. I'm not saying it wouldn't hurt. It would hurt. I would fucking make a video explaining how hurt I am if it ends up being nothing. But on the same token, if it does all end up being nothing, the best thing we can take out of it is that it wasn't actually nothing, and that it was a fun practice of creativity, and that it was a fun understanding of deep analysis when it comes to things like this. It may not have been right, but it's still a fun practice. And that's why I'm continuing to do this series. Even after the end of this video, it's a little bit of a blunder if you think about it, because I had to repost this video, you guys. In case you don't know, this video hit 15,000 views. Actually, here, let me, I'm going to put it in waiting for a second so I can go ahead and pull up the my studio. That way I can show you the view counts, because cumulatively the Kojima's Deception series has hit 30,000 views. And even if that means that only 10% of the viewers actually watched, that's still 3,000 viewers who watched 2.5 hours of content. I mean, that's fucking nuts in my mind. Anyway, hang on one second. I'm almost there. Let's go ahead and go into studio mode, live, full screen window. No, not full screen window. Display capture. There we go. And let's go ahead and shrink that down. It's not going to be perfect. I apologize. I'm just doing this for a quick thing. Alright. Let's go ahead and get out of studio mode. Go to live. Okay. So let's go ahead and scroll down. This is studio mode, so you guys know. In case anyone who's watching is not a publisher or producer, I guess. I don't fucking know. Producer would probably be more accurate. Editor, someone who doesn't actually make videos. This is what it looks like behind the scenes. Alright, so this is where the stream started. The first stream actually was pretty successful. It was Silent Hill 2 doing a New Year's Eve stream. Honestly, that was probably one of the most fun experiences of my life, because so many people joined in. It was fucking nuts, which is why I've continued to do the streams until this point, and why I'm going to continue to do the streams from now on. So, here is the first Kojima's Deception Part 3, the original release. It was 1 hour and 45 minutes. I had to cut out 45 minutes of this video in order to release on time. I'm honestly a little bit embarrassed that I had to do this, but it is what it is. And I ended up delisting it. As you can see, it's unlisted. You can still find it, but I honestly don't even recommend it to anyone at this point, because the new main version of it is so much better. That's the early access version, which I'm actually probably just going to go ahead and delete at some point. But here's the final cut. The true final cut is 2 hours and 29 minutes. Like I said, 45 minutes extra of the original. And that's because in order to make the deadline that I was attempting to hit, to be honest, I don't even remember what the deadline was. I think it was attempting to hit I was hoping to get it out before Christmas, which obviously I did. But I kind of pushed the main release out a little bit. because I was hoping that we would get more information sooner, which obviously we didn't. But even then, that's fine, because like I said, cumulatively, we have over 30,000 views on this series. Let's go ahead and look at the analytics so you guys can kind of get a look at this. The second run of this video has been a lot more successful, as far as I can tell. It's taking a second, sorry about that. But, oh, pardon me. Let's go ahead and look at lifetime, since it has only been a little bit longer. Yeah, when it first posted, it had crazy views for even the repost, because people may have thought that it was a new video. But even then, let's go back. Wait, this is watch time. Yeah, so this is. It was crazy. Like, so many people continued to watch it knowing that it was the same video, but extended and revamped, because there was a lot that went into the full final cut. I freely admit that the original release of Kojima's Deception Part 3 was rushed and that it was incomplete. Obviously it was incomplete because it was missing 45 minutes. That's almost a third of the entire video. But I wanted to try and hit a deadline. I wanted to try and see what happened, I guess, when I pushed out a video as quick as I could. And not only that, but pushed out a video that was incredibly important to me as quickly as I could. Yeah, despite the shortcomings of the original release, I am still very proud of Part 3. It was a lot of fun to make. It was a great reception. And honestly, I couldn't be happier with how many of you continue to support the series and continue to support me by watching my videos. For anyone who's watching currently who hasn't seen the rest of my videos, this is a bit of a plug, but please check out my review series, because I've made a lot of reviews. I did a review on the Steam controller, which is one of my favorite videos, even though it I wouldn't say it stepped over the line, but it was poorly presented. I wish I could redo it, and I'm going to re-review it, because there's been so many software updates that it's like a whole new experience. But yeah, I have a lot of reviews out there. Like I said, you know, there's one of my other favorites is the what the fuck is that game called? Receiver video. The video in Receiver is one of my favorites that I made. It's so underappreciated. I'm gonna re-review it because it was a very early video. It was a very early review, and I didn't really do much editing. I didn't do much contextual editing, which bothers me in hindsight. And not only that, but it was before I had an intro. Even though the original intro technically was a fake intro, it still bothers me that there was no intro. So, at some point, I will re-review Receiver, because I feel like it deserves more, not more acceptance, but more recognition, I guess is the better word. I feel like Wolfire did a really great job, even if it was something that was what's the word I'm looking for, but even if it was something that was premeditated as far as the idea of what if a cultist ideology came true. I still feel that it was an underappreciated idea, and I really let's go back really quick. We're gonna go back. By the way, here is the 900 subscriber milestone. That was, let's see, that was 5 months ago. We've come a long fucking way, you guys. We've already gotten 500 more subscribers since then. It's fucking nuts. Anyway, all right, we're back to the original Kojima's Deception, which was fairly popular. That was almost as popular as the original release of Part 3. But even that, I'm still somewhat embarrassed of, and you can see it in the commentary. Which, like I said, tomorrow you will be seeing the full, proper, edited version of the commentary. That way you can just get the commentary if you've seen the videos. And that includes the prologue, part 1, and part 2. Stream number 2 will include parts 2.5 and the side op, and then obviously today is just part 3. Because part 3 was the longest video I've made to date, and that's why I segmented it out the way I did, because honestly, if you look at it, the prologue, part 1 and part 2 are part 1. Part 2.5 and the side up are part 2. And part 3 is just part 3. But I was still very new to making videos longer than 20 minutes. 10 minutes. 10 minutes was my average because that was just the most common. I still tried to push it longer, as you can see. Here's my in-depth controller demo. That's not even the gameplay. Well, I mean, it's a combination of gameplay. It was before I decided to separate the two out. Here's actually a Patreon exclusive. I did a demo of the Steam controller using Turok 2, and I will eventually make that video a reality. But it was just technical issues at the time. It frustrated me because I was trying to push out so many of these Steam controller demos. And I kind of got burned out, which is why I ended up going with the Kojima's Deception series, because it was far more interesting to me, and it took a lot of effort, and it was a great struggle. It was truly a passionate effort, or a labor of love, as is the more common phrase. All right, here it is. The receiver, RetroHellspawn get out reviews. It only has 164 views. It's not many, but this is still, honestly, one of the earliest videos that I really appreciate the most, because it was kind of like Kojima's Deception before Kojima's Deception. Like I said, it's the title even, or the thumbnail even kind of says it, with cultists. Oh shit, that's not what I wanted. That is not what I wanted. Go back. Go back. I wanted to go to the edit page so you guys can see what that looks like. Ah, damn it. Alright, let's go forward one page. There we go. Come on. There we go. Alright. Let's go ahead and click on the title, because that will bring us to the proper page that we're looking for. Or edit, either way. But to very quickly explain what this video is, It's a review of a receiver, obviously. It does go in more in detail into the gameplay than I'm going to go into now. It's a procedurally generated first-person shooter that focuses on the muscle memory of using a handgun, which is both, just a standard semi-automatic like you see here, or a revolver. Sorry, we're just going on a tangent here, but anyway, just to finalize this thought before we go ahead and actually get back to the proper part of the stream. The main reason that Wolfire Games ended up making this was made for a 1-week game jam. And as you can see, it uses very primitive models. The floors and everything are non-textured. It's just shaded. But it's still an incredibly addicting game. And the backstory of how Aubrey came to the story of the tapes is honestly much more interesting than the game itself, which sounds like it's underselling the game, but trust me, it's not. I would honestly recommend checking out the write-up, which I think is linked in the description. It is not. I will fix that soon. But you can find it on their page. You can look up Wolfire Receiver, and then you can probably find it within 2 or 3 posts. No joke. They didn't make that many posts about it because they didn't update it further than the Game Jam build, which is honestly, in my opinion, rather unfortunate. Because let's go ahead and just take a quick look at this. Come on, full screen. All of that was individual button presses. You have to press each bullet that goes into the magazine. You have to insert the magazine, and then you have to cock the gun, which you also have to disable the safety if it's enabled. Just to give you an idea of what this game is like, I highly recommend it. It's a cheap, fun game. The best way I would recommend to get it is to directly support Wolfire Games by going to their website. And you can find that here. Let's go ahead and... Come on. It's not... Whatever. I'll add it to the description of this video. Please check out this video. It's a very old video, but it's still one of my favorites. And I feel like it didn't get enough love for what it was, because it was one of my first really deeply thought videos that went into the creation of something rather than just a general review like my Brutal Doom video. And I do plan on doing another version of the Brutal Doom video pretty soon, because I did make a trailer for the updated video. And welcome, Arca. Thank you for showing up. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've seen you, and honestly, I highly recommend, when it's finally finished processing, to check out the to check out the archive of this video, because oh my fucking god, I had a hell of a story to tell about how I got here today. And why I'm so badly delayed, because it's already 10:30. How far are we in this video? We are 12 minutes into a 2.5 hour video. Let's go ahead and just go ahead. Let's disable that. Enable the window capture. And get this shit going, because I've been
that Kojima has not only decided
unintentionally
to
stalling.
contextualize the series for fans, but that he built the series with subtle hints that not all is as it seems. Clearly, with the original Metal Gear, He didn't have this grand design in mind. He was just trying to make a game that not only was engaging, but took full advantage of the hardware of the MSX2. Kojima figured the best idea would be to avoid combat, as it would prevent a large amount of sprites having to be drawn. As with games like Contra, what Konami was basically hoping for out of Kojima when they asked him to make an action game. Metal Gear 2 took the ideas presented in Metal Gear 1 and expanded greatly on them. Improved graphics, a story that took more than 17 minutes to tell. Looking at you, Kefka Productions, thank you for your movie edits.
No joke. I kind of do feel like I've broken the Kojima code. Even though that's probably just a moment of arrogance. I have no idea what Kojima is planning for the actual story, but I feel like I have an idea. I feel like I have an idea of where he's going with it. And furthermore, I really feel like the artificial intelligence and data control aspects are going to be massively present, even if it's not a Metal Gear game. I still feel like it's going to be a huge part. I feel like Kojima wants to at least continue the themes he had presented in Metal Gear Solid 2. You can argue that all you want, but I feel like this is arrogant Tyson. But you can argue that all you want, but I really feel like that's the case. I really feel like Kojima is wanting to bring the ideas that he presented 20 years ago to a modern age in a sense that is honestly real to a scary degree. It's fucking terrifying how real he's gotten with Death Stranding. Pretty fucking much. I feel that intensely.
And some of the famous fourth wall breaks we saw in MGS1 were actually originated in Metal Gear 2. For instance, remember having to look at the back of the CD case in MGS1 for Meryl's codec frequency?
Let's just go ahead and let's just go ahead and let's just God damn it, Rue.
That originated as a puzzle using tap codes in the manual to spell out the codec for Dr. Madnar. This is particularly interesting because he actually says, "Ah, I see you figured out my code." With this in mind, if Dr. Madnar is not only the man responsible for the many technological advancements in prosthetic limbs and robotics, but was it possible that he was also the mastermind who created the original engine the Copplethorne engine was based upon? And Copplethorne himself was someone who just stole the idea, similar to how Huey stole the idea for Peace Walker from Grannon, without crediting his source? Another comparison would be how, despite the Copplethorne engine being used commonly in spin-offs, it was originally Kojima's idea. This would make him the architect of the simulation, similar to that of the Matrix movies. Kojima has expressed a fondness toward the Matrix, even going as far to say in an interview that the original Metal Gear Solid was like the first Matrix. Theoretically, the Copplethorne engine is the same engine that virtualized a world for Big Boss, and kept his will contained leading up to the events of MGS4. This explains why Dr. Madnar is still alive while looking as old as he did in Metal Gear 2, and why he surprisingly wasn't dead almost 20 years later by MGS4. His age isn't disclosed, but he was clearly already aged heavily by the time of Metal Gear 2. This would basically make Dr. Madnar the architect of the Matrix.
You know, Arca, I was questioning that notion significantly because I was having a moment where I was trying to sanity check myself. And the further I played Metal Gear 1 and 2, the further I came to the realization that Kojima has been deeply invested in the concept of video games being more than just a toy, being more than movies could ever be, being more than books could ever be, being more than any other form of art could ever be. And it's fascinating to see that this might actually be something that he's thought of for 30 years. It might not be that he had the idea in full 30 years ago, but obviously, it's quite obvious if you look at Metal Gear 1 and 2, specifically Metal Gear 2, that he has wanted to exit the digital realm in video games since the beginning. It's quite fascinating. It's fucking unreal. It's unlike any other game I can think of. For real. That's definitely... I agree with the guy in there. I don't think that it's something that he could plan. I think it's something that he just kind of happened to lay the groundwork for. I mean, I think that he's wanted to escape the digital realm for a while, but I don't think that he thought of it in quite this level of depth since Metal Gear Solid 4. So in the very least, he's been planning this for 10 years, which, if you want to think about it on a goofy technical level, means that technically we're not even getting this from the same Kojima who made Metal Gear Solid V, since every 7 years, all of the cells in our body have been replaced by another cell. Crazy. Yeah. God damn it, I'm going fucking nuts over this ruse. And hello there, Dev Copper. That's another reason that I'm so fucking just... Sorry, my phone's going nuts. It needs to be plugged in, and it got disconnected. Anyway, that's another reason that I'm so on the ruse cruise, is because Kojima said that movies and video games will merge. And it seems like every year, video games are becoming more and more cinematic in more direct ways. And the greatest example that I can give is Detroit Become Human. And you guys might hate it. I know that Detroit is a rather subjective game. It is a very quote-unquote trite story. But I had a lot of fun with it. I had a lot of fun just exploring this world where I was playing as 3 different androids who were living out their lives, realizing that they had more to them than what they were told that they had. And yeah, it's definitely a highly recommended game for me. I feel like it's a video game version of Blade Runner in a highly cinematic form. Not just what Kojima made with, not Police Knots, but Snatcher. I feel like it's exceeded that because of how hyper-realistic the graphics have become. It's... If you have a PlayStation 4, it is an absolute must-buy. If you like cinematic single-player games, it is a must-buy.
Hello, Neo.
Who are you?
I am the architect. I created the Matrix. I've been waiting for you. You have many questions, and though the process has altered your consciousness, you remain irrevocably human. Ergo, some of my answers you will understand, and some of them you will not. Concordantly, while your first question may be the most pertinent, you may or may not realize it is also the most irrelevant.
Why am I here?
Your life is the sum of a remainder of an unbalanced equation inherent to the programming of the Matrix. You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision. While it remains a burden assiduously avoided, it is not unexpected and thus not beyond a measure of control, which has led you inexorably here.
You haven't answered my question.
Quite right. Interesting. That was quicker than the others.
Others? Many. Others. What? Answer my question.
The Matrix is older than you know. I prefer counting from the emergence of one integral anomaly to the emergence of the next, in which case this is the 6th version.
5 ones before. There are only 2 possible explanations. There were 5 ones before. Either no one told me, or no one knows.
Precisely. As you are undoubtedly gathering, the anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equations.
You can't make me do anything.
Choice. The problem is choice.
The Patriots are trying to protect their power, their own interests, by controlling the digital flow of information. I want my memory, my existence to remain. Unlike an intron of history, I will be remembered as an exon. That will be my legacy, my mark in history. But the Patriots would deny us even that. I will triumph over the Patriots and liberate us all. And we will become the Sons of Liberty!
Raiden, are you receiving? We're still here.
How's that possible? The AI was destroyed.
Only GW.
Who are you?
To begin with, we're not what you'd call human. Over the past 200 years, a kind of consciousness formed layer by layer in the crucible of the White House. It's not unlike the way life started in the oceans 4 billion years ago. The White House was our primordial soup, a base of evolution. We are formless. We are the very discipline and morality that Americans invoke so often. How can anyone hope to eliminate us? As long as this nation exists, so will we.
Cut the crap! If you're immortal, why would you take away individual freedoms and censor the net?
Jack, don't be silly.
Don't you know that our plans have your interests, not ours, in mind?
What?
Jack, listen carefully, like a good boy.
The mapping of the human genome was completed early this century. As a result, the evolutionary log of the human race lay open to us.
We started with genetic engineering, and in the end, we succeeded in digitizing life itself.
But there are things not covered by genetic information.
What do you mean?
Human memories, ideas, culture, history.
Genes.
Alright, so if it's sticking, let me go ahead and make sure that I'm not. God damn it. I have Chrome open still. That's why. I'm sorry, guys. Fuck. Well, thankfully it's mostly been audio up until this point, right? I apologize for that. I really do. I'm so fucking out of it. Like I said, I had to drive for 6 hours today. I haven't driven that long in like 3 years. So, yeah. Anyway.
Don't contain any record of human history.
Is it something that should not be passed on? Should that information be left at the mercy of nature?
We've always kept records of our lives, through words, pictures, symbols, from tablets to books.
But not all the information was inherited by later generations. A small percentage of the whole was selected and processed, then passed on. Not unlike genes, really.
That's what history is, Jack.
But in the current digitized world,
I didn't go anywhere, guy in there. I may have left myself muted, and I apologize if I did, but Yeah, I'm trying to keep this all under wraps. I kind of fucked up the stream by apparently having Chrome open, but I fixed that, so thankfully that won't be an issue anymore.
Information is accumulating every second, preserved in all its triteness, never fading, always accessible.
Rumors about petty issues, misinterpretations, slander.
All this junk data, preserved in an unfiltered state, growing at an alarming rate.
It will only slow down social progress, reduce the rate of evolution.
Right. You seem to think that our plan is one of censorship.
Are you telling me it's not?
You're being silly. What we propose to do is not to control content, but to create context.
Create context?
The digital society furthers human flaws and selectively rewards development of convenient half-truths.
I am incredibly curious, Arca. Where are you from? Because there's so many people from across the globe that have learned, not have learned English to watch the series, but that have watched the series and commented on it. So because you have learned English, not to watch the series, but that it's helped you understand it a lot more, and have a better appreciation for it. I'm really curious. I'm really curious where you're from. Yeah, no, seriously, the correlation between those two fucking bothers me to this day. It's too much.
Just look at the strange juxtapositions of morality around you.
Billions spent on new weapons in order to humanely murder other humans.
Rights of criminals are given more respect than the privacy of their victims.
Although there are people suffering in poverty, huge donations are made to protect endangered species. Everyone grows up.
Oh, I see. So it wasn't actually too much of a reach for you to learn. But it's still definitely, with being French Canadian, that's still a pretty decent hurdle to jump. I've never learned another language. I wish I had. I really wish that my high school offered what I wanted to learn, which was Japanese. And I'm surprised that I graduated without at least learning Spanish. But apparently I did. Oh my god.
Being told the same thing.
Be nice to other people.
But beat out the competition.
You're special. Believe in yourself and you will succeed.
But it's obvious from the start that only a few can succeed.
You exercise your right to freedom, and this is the result. All rhetoric to avoid conflict and protect each other from hurt. The untested truths, spun by different interests, continue to churn and accumulate in the sandbox of political correctness and value systems.
Everyone withdraws into their own small gated community, afraid of a larger forum. They stay inside their little ponds, leaking whatever truth suits them into the growing cesspool of society at large.
The different cardinal truths neither clash nor mesh. No one is invalidated, but nobody is right.
Not even natural selection can take place here. The world is being engulfed in truth.
And this is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but a whimper.
We're trying to stop that from happening.
I totally agree, okay, mate. This part always fucking gets to me. It always fucking gets to me. No matter how many times I watch it, no matter how many times I've watched it while editing this video, this part always gets to me. It's fucking creepy because it still applies. And it applies more, I feel, nowadays than it did back then.
It's our responsibility as rulers. Just as in genetics, unnecessary information and memory must be filtered out to stimulate the evolution of the species.
And you think you're qualified to decide what's necessary and not?
Absolutely. Who else could wade through the sea of garbage you people produce, retrieve valuable truths, and even interpret their meaning for later generations?
To get specific and asshole-ish, think of kernel like YouTube and Raiden like the viewers and content producers.
That's what it means to create context.
I'll decide for myself what to believe and what to pass on.
But is that even your own idea?
Or something Snake told you?
That's the proof of your incompetence right there. You lack the qualifications to exercise free will.
That's not true. I have the right.
Does something like a self exist inside of you?
That which you call self serves as nothing more than a mask to cover your own being.
In this era of ready-made truths, self is just something used to preserve those positive emotions that you occasionally feel.
Another possibility is that self is a concept you conveniently borrowed under the logic that would endow you with some sense of strength.
That's crap!
Is it? Would you prefer that someone else tell you? All right then. Explain it to him.
Jack, you're simply the best. And you got there.
Shit! I didn't unmute myself, and I have to re-say that. I feel like a more accurate version of what Cypher was trying to say. Yeah, I muted myself. Anyway, what Cypher was trying to say is that it's not that we always play the puppet. We play the puppet master who is forced to... who is forced to... I'm laughing because Arca's like, oh, muted! God damn it. Fucking delayed reactions from YouTube. I wish that I could just go with the super low latency, but I don't trust my computer and I don't trust YouTube. I'm sorry. But anyway, to go ahead and reiterate what I was trying to say. I feel like we play the puppet master, but because this is a play, we are forced to play out a certain set of events. But because we're the puppet master, we can create certain alterations on those events, such as optional events. For instance, the optional Johnny confrontation between Emma and Johnny, where you can listen into the entire conversation. You can listen to pretty much all of Emma's walk over the bridge near the end of the game. Yes, Cypher is Shadow Might. You can go ahead and at him if you want. I'm sure he won't mind. That's why he's here. And Cypher being the gentleman who I've been working with from the UK, who is honestly, this might be speaking for myself, but honestly, Cypher, I feel like you're one of my best friends at this point. I feel like I could tell you just about anything. So, anyway. Yeah, I think that you guys would have a great chat. Let's go ahead and continue the video.
All by yourself.
Oh, what happened? Do you feel lost? Why not try a bit of soul searching?
Don't think you'll find anything, though.
Ironic that although self is something that you yourself fashioned, every time something goes wrong, you turn around and place the blame on something else.
It's not my fault. It's not your fault.
In denial, you simply resort to looking for another, more convenient truth in order to make yourself feel better.
Leaving behind in an instant.
Okay, so to kind of explain why I said that, like, Cypher and I have been talking for over a year now. Like, it's been a rather long friendship at this point. And more than that, we see things very much eye to eye. We might have different viewpoints at certain times about certain things, particularly my openness to the concepts of Netflix tie-ins versus, the idea that that's just not really plausible. And that really isn't super plausible, but it still seems possible to me, which is why I continue to bring it up. And why I will make a side up continuing to discuss some of these things that I think are possible connections, but not as plausible. Things that I find interesting, things that other rusers find interesting, that I feel should be brought to a video presentation. Yeah, let's go ahead and read these. I wanted to tell you the other day my CS professor told me that we were watching critical accumulation of data information approaching a blackout. I fucking hope we don't see a blackout. That would be terrifying. But I suppose I will keep my ear out. Fuck. Oh, okay. It's just a conversation going on between Cypher and Arca. I'll let that be.
The so-called truth you once embraced.
Should someone like that be able to decide what is truth?
Should someone like you even have the right to decide?
You've done nothing but abuse your freedom.
You don't deserve to be free.
We're not the ones smothering the world. You are.
The individual is supposed to be weak, but far from powerless. A single person has the potential to ruin the world.
And the age of digitized communication has given even more power to the individual. Too much power for an immature species.
Building a legacy involves figuring out what is wanted and what needs to be done for that goal. All this you used to struggle with. Now, we think for you.
We are your guardians, after all.
You want to control human thought? Human behavior?
Of course. Anything can be quantified nowadays. That's what this exercise was designed to prove.
You fell in love with me just as you were meant to, after all. Isn't that right, Jack?
Ocelot was not told the whole truth, to say the least.
Yeah, there's a, as Cypher is saying, there's a rather strange quote-unquote coincidence that appears in Lena Katina's Silent Hills music video, which is technically just a lyrics video, where it has the album and then splotches of paint that go over. And there's a few points where those splotches of paint just so happen to just indecipherably mimic, or not indecipherably, I'm trying to think of a word that means not able to be confused with. But anyway, something that shouldn't be able to be confused with a whale. It's a fucking whale that appears in those ink blobs, and you guys should check that out. I will make it part of part 4, or not part 4, but the side op, because, well, no, it should be part of part 4. It should have been part of part 3 in hindsight, but I didn't think about adding it. But hindsight's 2020. There was so much in this video, I didn't really feel like I had any room for it. I mean, this video is literally 2.5 times longer than the longest video on my channel that isn't a stream. So, yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and stop ranting. Go ahead and get back to the video.
We rule an entire nation. Of what interest would a single soldier, no matter how able, be to us?
The S3 plan does not stand for solid snake simulation.
Honestly, I kind of hope so. But, yeah, it's definitely, the biggest thing that's a deciding factor is if we're actually on point. And I totally understand his reasoning. I mean, it's entirely reasonable to come from that standpoint. You know, if something isn't, if this whole theory process ends up being basically for naught, then I can see why he wouldn't want his face attached to it as publicly as mine is. But because I'm so deep in this, I don't really have any qualms about it, because this is honestly my only claim to fame at this point. My only true claim to fame, I should say. The closest thing I have to this is my my DOSBox tutorial, which, while I have a lot of fondness for that, it's a fucking tutorial. It's not a 2.5-hour love letter to my favorite video game series of all time that I put years of thought into. You know, so it's a big difference in the payback, on a metaphorical level, like how much it emotionally feeds back into you and how much it really rewards you to make something like this. I mean, of course, that's what we're doing, dude. We're talking about fucking Death Stranding, and whenever Death Stranding comes out and we end up seeing Kojima talk about the next game, if he ends up doing another ruse, then for sure we will do another ruse discussion. But I'm not going to speculate on something that doesn't even exist yet. I'm pretty sure that he doesn't even really have much of a concept for it. He probably has the basis of it, but I mean, I can't really... Honestly, I don't even know if it would be related to Death Stranding. It's probably going to be a completely new concept. I feel like Death Stranding is going to be a one-off, and that he's just going to go on to make something completely different from that point. I feel like Death Stranding is going to be his final love letter to working at Konami. And I should say working directly at Konami. And that he will go ahead and start making original IPs and creating those more thoroughly, while working with Konami, but not directly under Konami, if that makes sense. But this is just speculation. This isn't definitive. I hope this is the case, but we will see.
What it does stand for is selection for societal sanity. The S3 is a system for controlling human will and consciousness. S3 is not you, a soldier trained in the image of Solid Snake. It is a method, a protocol that created a circumstance that made you what you are.
So you see, we're the S3, not you.
This puzzle, while using real tap codes for letters, just modified using numbers as well, making it alphanumeric, makes the puzzle possible. Without knowing that, this puzzle would be impossible to solve. I know I'm not the first to point this out, but it's important to bring up that Kojima was entering the real world all the way back in the second entry of the series. Truly a visionary in what video games could be. It becomes even clearer by MGS1 that things are not as they seem in the original Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2. Things aren't so grounded in reality. Sure, there's a giant robot, but in another reality. We could have had them too, hence their existence in Metal Gear Solid, a fictitious alternate reality based on our own timeline. Now, however, we have several events that aren't as easily explained away by science as much as they are in the rest of the series. Vulcan Raven's connection to Ravens, Psycho Mantis's ability to jack into your mind, as well as telekinetic powers, Decoy Octopus's ability to absorb the DNA of victims and mimic the person using their memories and voice. None of this is explained. Then there's the famous codec fourth wall break mentioned earlier, Mantis reading your memory card, as well as having to plug in your controller into port 2 to take away his ability to read your shots. You can kill him without doing that, but where's the fun in that? It kind of just disregards the intent that Kojima was putting into the game, by putting you into the game. You're the demon that possesses Snake in all of the games. In a way, it's kind of cliche. The whole, in reality, humans are monsters thing. We've done much to poison our world via generations, which would also explain, for example, why Death Stranding seems to have very strong anti-pollution themes as a chiral mirror to what humans are doing in reality, in regards to our own creeping pollution problem. Hence several trailers of Dead Sea Life. As well as why in Metal Gear Solid, the original character, Raven, has that line where he says,
We'll play with him a little longer.
You would be wise not to underestimate him.
What did you think of him?
He is just as you said. In battle,
He is as if possessed by a demon. Much like you, I would expect no less.
Before we move on to MGS2, look at the UI, not just of this game, but of previous games as well. All of them are virtually identical, with the only real change being the color of the bar from red to a teal color. Doesn't this look like it's, a computer user interface in the 90s? There's also the inclusion of on-screen indicators for your equipment and weaponry, which looks yet again like a sophisticated computer interface. Also, remember that mind-jacking I mentioned from Psycho Mantis? In MGS1, there was a flash to white, then faded into the forced flashback. In Twin Snakes, however, they made it to where it fades to a TV screen static. Almost like you literally hacked into your mind in the Matrix as an entity similar to that of the Smiths, being able to take over anyone they choose, once the original had realized he could pretty much accomplish anything he wanted to being a part of the system. Granted, this wasn't fully realized in the first film, which is what heavily influenced MGS2, but MGS2 is where Kojima starts to make things really weird in terms of the paranormal. Granted, a lot of it is explained, either in the same game or in MGS4, but it was still highly odd upon a first playthrough without all of that context. Fortune's ability to deflect bullets, which ended up being a piece of tech that emitted high amounts of magnetic force to deflect bullets, which oddly enough didn't do anything to Knives or her railgun. Vamp's immortality, which ended up just being nanomachines, classic Kojima. Ocelot's replaced arm, donated from Liquid's dead body, possessing him turning out to be self-induced microgoja or brainwashing in simpler terms. It's all just very odd.
The nanomachines in his body cause his wounds to close and heal at an accelerated rate. Someone took the basic nanomachine technology I once researched and perfected it. In a sense, I'm responsible for Vamp. It's one of my sins.
On top of that, these seemingly unexplainable events being so simply explained could be explained as a case of Raiden's brain affecting the simulation by trying to rationally explain these strange phenomena. Speaking of simulation, that's the funny thing about MGS2. It outright explains that it is a simulation, and that none of what you're seeing except for a few choice characters are real.
It came as a complete surprise when Ocelot discovered the S3 data from GW. S3 stands for Solid Snake Simulation.
The S3 plan does not stand for Solid Snake Simulation. What it does stand for is Selection for Societal Sanity.
So you see, we're the S3, not you.
A simulated Solid Snake shaped by VR regimen. Sound like someone you know, Jack? I'm sorry to see you reduced to one of the Patriots' puppets. But I've made use of you, and their plan too. Solid Snake's sudden appearance, your arrival. It was obvious the Patriots were among my ranks. I had to smoke out the agent before the mission entered the final phase. You came in handy, as bait. Jack, those days during the Civil War were as real as they come. Every day was absolute, split between life and death. You ran from it. And now you've been led back to war by something less than real.
Raiden is held within the Copplethorne engine for the Patriots' experiment of social sanity, testing to see if a person can be fed a fictional dialogue and have them believe it. At the end, the GWAI reveals all of this to Raiden, and the fact that Event proves that S3 program was a success. This is where the S3 program was first implemented, and began erasing and changing information that we know as fact. This is why I had said in previous installments that by MGS4, the encyclopedia in the game is no longer a reliable source for all information, as you're reading information that has been modified for social sanity. I don't want to get off track though. Let's move on to MGS3, where the elements of virtual reality and even the inclusion of a series crossover began to get more and more suspicious.
Jack, I've got some important news. The head of the CIA has finally given us the green light for the virtuous mission.
Virtual mission?
No, the virtuous mission. The future of our Fox unit depends on it.
This line is going to be the springboard for this segment, covering MGS3. MGS3 has so many elements of VR that it's honestly quite mind-boggling that it's only recently that the series has begun to show cracks in the simulation. But perhaps that was Kojima's plan all along. Anyway, let's go into the elements of VR in MGS3. First and foremost, the UI has been drastically altered from previous entries. Instead of going for a single colored bar that changes depending on your health level, there's instead two white bars next to your character's codename, one indicating health, the other indicating stamina. The health bar no longer goes up from just eating rations as it did in previous games. Eating only affects stamina. What the hell is life medicine? How does that work in reality? You could say it's a painkiller, but that's not what it's called, otherwise it'd just... Why remove color unless it's so low it turns red? Because it's an updated version of the Copplethorne engine.
Before the video goes on, I should say. Okay, mate. Honestly, that's not a bad hypothesis. Especially considering how similar it is to Raiden's helmet, or mask rather, in Metal Gear Solid 2.
This UI change carries over to MGS4, though it can be customized in MGS4 unlike MGS3. On top of this, there are various elements of this game that aren't present in the other games. For instance, in all other MGS games, elements of the paranormal are just explained away, yet in this game there's exploding bosses, a field that turns from white to red, Vulcan's electricity manipulation, the Fear's cloaking, your cloaking, the Pain's ability to communicate with bees, all appearances of the Sorrow, especially where he's holding an active digital clock that appears like a hologram in front of him, the weird Guy Savage nightmare if you leave the game for a while and come back to it after being captured, a toy model of a frame from Zone of the Enders, as well as a Metal Gear Ray which supposedly didn't exist for another 45 years. All of this being unexplained.
That is something I didn't cover in this video, and I think I'm going to go ahead and amend in part 4, for sure. Because, there's quite the oversight that I didn't cover that. I think you had even mentioned it before I finished, but because it was so long and because I was so stressed out already, I was just like, no more! No more gets added to this already massive project. I didn't want it to end up being like a 4-hour video or something crazy. So I think 2.5 hours to 2 hours and 40 minutes is going to be the max for any video on this channel. As far as non-streams. Streams will go on until they end. But videos... Jesus, excuse me. Sorry, I just kind of, while I was muted, I kind of wolfed down some food. What was I saying? God damn it, I lost my train of thought because of the hiccup. Shit! Yeah, I lost my train of thought. Hang on. Let's go ahead and respond to some of these comments. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you've missed about 2 hours or an hour and a half of commentary, but you'll be able to catch that up later in the archive. So far, we're only about 40 minutes into the video, so we still have about 2 hours left of the video to go ahead and stream. But yeah, it's great to see you, Enrique. let's go ahead and continue.
Points to post-traumatic stress disorder, hallucinations, and those affecting the simulation's perspective of what really happened, with exception of the sorrow. But we'll get...
It's all good. You know, it all gets archived anyway, so you can just check it out later, whatever you missed.
Get more into him later in Death Stranding. If you've watched part 2.5 in the side-op already, you'll likely know.
Speaking of streams and archives, I actually really need to apologize for the Tuesday stream, and particularly the Resident Evil DS stream, just kind of suddenly, after about 20 minutes, cutting to the pause screen and never coming back. I was really tired, and yeah, oh my god. I shouldn't have even started that stream. I should have just been like, alright, we're calling it early, guys. I'm fucking tired. Oh my god. Alright, let's go ahead and continue.
Where I'm about to go with this, but I'm going to expand on it a little bit. I did want to point out something that many people may not know, which is that there are images both in MGS3 and later in MGS4 of certain moments that are important to Silent Hill lore, such as this picture that appears to be God's death. What's interesting about this is that Eva in MGS4 as Big Mama actually kind of resembles Dahlia Gillespie from Silent Hill. The question is, was this intentional? Was Kojima planting seeds for this recontextualization all the way back from MGS4, as he may have hinted in the MGSV debriefing video, which is still available on Konami's YouTube channel? In this side-op video, during the discussion of the Burger Meetup, I also mentioned that Robin Atkin Downes played various soldiers in MGS3, and that was his first role in the series. A theory I presented is that perhaps this was the inception of the idea of virtual reality, as Robin goes from being the voice you hear almost every supposedly Russian soldier, potentially even Johnny Sasaki with the infamous J right on his forehead. MGS2 Russians actually have Russian accents, to being the voice of your right-hand man in the form of Kazuhira Miller, the ultimate mindfuck, the system taking over your consciousness. There's also one thing that sticks out to me the most about this game in terms of VR. Ivan Rydinovich Rykov. You can't just say he's an Easter egg for the fans of MGS2 either. He is in the canonical story. You have to even disguise as him for a part of the game. What's strange to me about Rykov is that he genuinely looks identical to Raiden. Even the clones of Big Boss don't look exactly identical to him, with Liquid being naturally blonde, almost more resembling Kaz. Even further, there's a poster of MGS2 with Raiden on it, in his locker. This further ties MGS3 to MGS2's VR theme, potentially all being in virtual reality, Big Boss being forced to relive his past in the form of a nightmare, on repeat for years. To add on to this theory, it seems that Raiden has gone back in time, just as he did in Snake Eraser, to try and erase Big Boss from existence and prevent Solid Snake from ever existing. Perhaps in one timeline he fell for Vulcan, and that was the universe they ended up deciding to portray in MGS3. Perhaps he was brainwashed while in their custody, and he doesn't remember who he really is. Moving right along to MGS4, as mentioned, the UI has once again changed and been streamlined for modernization of the Copplethorne engine, but also has a few other things that just scream virtual reality to me. For instance,
it is perfect. Right? Right?
How the hell are you able to purchase items from Drebin when he's not directly near you? I mentioned in my side-op, MGS4 has much darker themes than previous games, focusing on drab environments and the harshness of war, rather than the usual focus of stealth and survival. It definitely seems to be a jab at the ongoing conflict in the Middle East that's still raging on almost 20 years later. On top of this, All the bosses are basically retellings of previous bosses from MGS1, making Metal Gear Solid 4's Solid Snake's personal nightmare. Psycho Mantis being Screaming Mantis, Decoy Octopus being Laughing Octopus, Vulcan Raven being Raging Raven, and Sniper Wolf being Crying Wolf. They're all women too, which could be because of what the story says. Or it could be Snake's regrets of how he's treated the women in his life.
I wanted to add on... Sorry, I'm eating fudge right now, so my voice is going to be a little bit off right now. Hang on. I heard that's where the Mark II's wee that transports anything other than small guns. I'll show myself out. Oh my god, god damn it, Arca. Anyway. Fuck, what was I? It was something I said in just the last couple of seconds in the video. I just don't remember exactly what I said. Shit. There we go.
Crying Wolf. They're all women too, which...
Oh, the objectification of women in Metal Gear Solid. And specifically, how it affects Solid Snake. You can see it all the way back in Metal Gear 2. I would say Metal Gear 1, but Metal Gear 1 didn't really have much of a story. It was a concept piece. It didn't really have much going for it. Metal Gear 2, however, is where things started becoming a lot more political and a lot more driven by an agenda, I guess is the best way to put it. Something that actually gives the player proper motivation. Hang on, let me continue. Let me catch up with the comments. What if instead of Big Boss living the same nightmare, it is us who are living the nightmare? This is entirely possible. I mean, this is going back to the whole Norman saying, or Norman repeating that Kojima said that they will be you. Meaning that every single person who plays Death Stranding will be their own Norman Reedus, which means that we are all going to have our own compartmentalized reality. Which is part of why in Part 2, and particularly the prologue, and Part 2.5, I ended up going into the artwork done by Simon Stollenhag of how it was a painting that I'm guessing is based in The Matrix, just based on when it was released, and he said it was from his childhood, so that's from my childhood, and that's what I think of when I think of The Matrix. Just a bunch of people hooked up to a fucking computer. But, yeah. It's kind of like what Enrica is getting at. Not that we're all clones, but more likely that we're all mental copies. Think about that. Think about how Kojima has said that Solid Snake is an analog for the objectification of soldiers that have also become the propagation of joining the armed forces. And then simultaneously, obviously, he's also part of a series where there's a character named Johnny who happens to take a shit every game. Anyway, god damn it. Back on topic. Yeah, so the idea that I'm seeing is that we're all being programmed, and that if we for some reason failed the initiation, that we're stuck in silent hell forever. But if we pass, that, and like I suggested, it might actually be that it was a limited time offer kind of thing, which, if you think about it from another meta perspective, getting into the ultra pretentious territory. But seriously though, thinking about online video games and the way that they work, they are a finite source of entertainment. You know, whatever isn't going to be directly supported by the original company that it was made by, hopefully is going to be supported by the fans in the future, but is not guaranteed to be supported by the fans in the future. For instance, something that took forever to get back online. Pardon me. Metal Gear Online and Metal Gear Online 2. It took years for fans to be able to find a way to reprogram the games to be able to work with custom servers and be able to revitalize Metal Gear Online 1 and 2. And if you didn't know that, please look into Metal Gear Online 1 and 2 fan restoration, I guess would be the best way to find it. I'll try and remember to add this link as well. The first few I will remember, but this one might not be. Either way, you can look it up as the Metal Gear Online fan project. I'm sure that you'll be able to find it. And yeah, I feel like that might be part of the meta of what Death Stranding is going for when it comes to the cooperative nature and the direct impact on the game. Because eventually Death Stranding is going to be supported online anymore. It might be 5 years from now, it might be 10 years from now. But eventually there will not be an online component to Death Stranding. So just consider that might actually be part of Kojima's narrative. That might be a literal fourth wall break in and of itself. I'm not going to tell you, guy in there. You have to look it up. Go to Google. You can do it.
Which could be because of what the story says. Or it could be Snake's regrets of how he's treated the women in his life. Treating them like objects, manifesting them as the Beauty and the Beast unit, being highly erotic after removing their outer suits. Not to mention, in the first fight with Laughing Octopus, she is a shapeshifter, similar to Decoy Octopus, who we didn't get to see except in his false form of the DARPA chief, even seeing a glimpse of his face after Vulcan Raven goes to dispose of his body.
A slight correction to what OKMate said. There is no definitive evidence to any of this. That doesn't mean that there's not evidence. The question is that evidence going to eventually lead to something? Because clearly, I'm not the only one who sees these correlations. Python and Selkin have done their own series, which has, at this point, I'm sure 30 plus hours, if not 40 plus hours at this point. The Tomb Portable has their own series, working with FIB, whom, like I said, I'm not a fan of FIB, but whatever, FIB can do their own thing. I at least recommend the Tomb Portable's PT analysis. I can't really recommend the others. That's entirely subjective. I know. This whole series is subjective. This whole ruse is subjective until Kojima actually gives us evidence. So, basically, what I'm getting at is that there is potential evidence. Nothing is definitive either way. We don't know what the fuck is going on. No one knows what the fuck is going on. If anyone claims that they know what's going on, unless they are actually directly in contact, such as Joe Penna, aka Mystery Guitar Man, Jordan Vogt Roberts, and who is the director of the potentially upcoming Metal Gear Solid movie, which might end up being a Death Stranding creation of documentary / Metal Gear Solid V creation of documentary. Low Roar, etc., etc. People who are connected. Anyway, let's go ahead and continue.
One of the main mechanics of this fight is to discover where she's blending in. And one of the things she blends into is this painting, which while I couldn't point to a point in Silent Hill lore, it certainly has a Silent Hill feel to it. On top of that, all the other paintings in this building are just pictures of sheep and shepherds, which, if you think about it, kind of sounds like people in VR and their handlers. Huh. Before we move on to the V trilogy, I'd like to go over Peace Walker. Peace Walker is interesting because a lot of the things that people criticized about MGSV actually originated here, and in many ways were improved upon in MGSV. More than that, though, I'd say it's actually a bigger gaping hole in the mask of lies that Kojima wears, disguising the series as anything but virtual reality. Before I go on, I'd like to make one correction from my side up. I had said that David pronounces Kaz as Kaz instead of Kaz throughout all of Peace Walker and Portable Ops, but there are occasions where he accidentally slips in Kaz instead of Kaz. Who knows why, but I figured I'd mention it just because I didn't want to be inaccurate.
I just realized that I didn't mute myself and I've just been eating fudge.
As Python
Oh my
Selkin
god.
pointed out, there's a...
If anyone wasn't able to hear that, I'm glad that you didn't hear the lip smacking, if you didn't hear that, but I apologize for anyone who did. I've been eating fudge. And I forgot to mute myself. But, yeah. I don't remember what the fuck I was about to say. I was about to comment on something. Right. What Arca was saying about how it must be so hard to keep a lid on everything. Jordan fucked Roberts. Yeah, I totally agree, Cypher. He's been kind of like a giddy little schoolgirl. he's like humble bragging about every little thing that he fucking gets his hands on. This is the best way I can describe it.
major discrepancy in the canon as far as what Kaz is aware of. In Peace Walker, at the end of the game, Kaz reveals to Big Boss that he knew who Professor Galvez and Paz were working for the whole time, but that according to him, he did it all for the good of Mother Base. This is where I started to distrust Kaz further, as in Ground Zeroes he clearly said,
if you're not familiar, watch JonTron on YouTube. He is by far not my favorite, but one of my like 3 most favorite YouTubers. And the only reason I don't say my favorite is because he's got a few contenders nowadays. Nakey Jakey and Scott the Waz are very good contenders for JonTron and my favorite YouTubers. So I would recommend checking out those 3 YouTubers if you haven't. Great fucking content. No joke.
says, I can't believe we ever bought that cover story. As though he never admitted to knowing their true identities. There's much more though. The elements of base management could be seen as a form of management training. The symbolism of Che Guevara could be seen as a form of mind control alongside all of the test signal slides. These are seen at the intro and at a couple of points in the cutscenes. To me, this is almost the ultimate proof of being brainwashed, having images flashed in front of you while in a hypnagogic state of consciousness, hallucinating all of this within a simulation. To further drive this point home, there's both a false ending which seems to have happened in the simulation regardless of what happens with Paz later, being that there are tapes of Dr. Strangelove talking about the ghost in the machine as though the events actually happened. Driving this final nail in the coffin, during the sudden onset of the J-pop Metal Gear Zeke final battle, you can actually resist the feat of Metal Gear Zeke if you mash the action button fast enough. There's no physical way for this to happen. This is proof of a simulation. I don't even give a fuck. Big Boss was showing signs of post-traumatic stress disorder all the way back here in Peace Walker, as he has several flashbacks to the moment when he had to kill the boss under orders from the United States. On top of this, he was in denial most of the...
Hang on. What? Jordan deleted this tweet? Oh, come on. Hang on. Oh yeah, I forgot he deleted that tweet. That did kind of crack me up when he deleted that tweet. Oh my god. Yeah, he's having a major issue keeping a cap on his fucking fanboy spasms.
Game about the true nature of her defection.
To be fair, I would be as bad, if not worse.
Granted, he has a good excuse attempting to prevent the mammal pod from being completed, but that doesn't change even his own memories of the event not exactly lining up until after Strangelove pulls the truth out of him unwittingly through his silence.
There's a saying in the Orient,
Loyalty to the end.
Do you know what it means?
Being patriotic.
It means devoting yourself to your country. As long as we have loyalty to the end, there's no point in believing in anything, even in those we love.
That's the way a soldier's supposed to think.
The only thing we can believe in, absolute certainty, is the mission, Jack. I'm defecting to the Soviet Union. Jack, you can't come with us.
I'd also like to discuss
Before the video decides to discuss the cause interrogation, which is by far one of my favorite moments in Metal Gear history. What I just went over there, the comparison between the Peace Walker flashbacks and the actual events as they happened, at least as we saw them in Metal Gear Solid 3, the best way I can describe it is that it's PTSD and potentially Snake's brain trying to cover up the facts by literally changing them in his own mind so that he doesn't have to be culpable for his actions. But clearly, as the events of Peace Walker show, eventually he comes to his senses, realizes the real events, and has to end Peace Walker as we know it. But anyway, what I wanted to bring up, aside from all that, is that that segment is actually stereo. So if you have a set of headphones or studio monitors,
lining
you
up
can
until after
enjoy
Strangelove
the
pulls
separation of those two performances.
Hallucinating all of this within a simulation. To further drive this point home, there's
And
both
yes,
a
I'm
false
replaying
ending,
this
which
segment
seems
so
to
that
have
you guys
happened in
can,
the simulation.
if you
regardless
weren't
of what happens with
prepared,
Paz later,
listen to this with
being that there are
headphones.
tapes of Dr. Strangelove talking about the ghost in the machine as though the events actually happened. Driving this final nail in the coffin, during the sudden onset of the J-pop Metal Gear Zeke final battle, you can actually resist the feat of Metal Gear Zeke if you mash the action button fast enough. Lining up until after
As long as we have loyalty to the end, there's no point in believing in anything, even in those we love.
That's the way a soldier's supposed to think.
The only thing we can believe in, absolute certainty, is the mission, Jack. I'm defecting to the Soviet Union. Jack, you can't come with us.
I'd also like to discuss a scene.
Well, the funny thing about that is that my roommates, plural, are female. And they don't really watch my content. I've showed some of it to them, but they aren't really familiar with the Metal Gear series. In fact, I was actually attempting to play through it with them, but yeah, we both ended up kind of busy with our own lives, and we kind of got paused at Metal Gear Solid 3. But yeah, anyway, Either way, they aren't here right now, so it doesn't fucking matter if I'm doing the stream at this point, even though it's almost midnight. The only people that I might annoy are my downstairs neighbors, but even then, I'm fairly quiet with how I speak, even though I have a deep voice, and I know it carries. There's like 2 feet of concrete between me and them, so I'm not really worried about up to downstairs noise transfer. So, let's go ahead and continue.
That was cut from the non-Japanese release of Peace Walker, as I feel it's rather important to the plot. The sauna scene, yes. The infamous tape where Snake practically interrogates Kaz in the sauna naked, initially acting coy and unknowing about the sauna's uses, then utilizing it to extract information. Look at this shit.
Hey.
Before I let this play out, in case you guys weren't aware, and in case you guys didn't check the description, this video was posted on Robin Atkin Downs' YouTube channel. So if you would like to watch the original in its own form, which is basically just this, please feel free to support Robin on his YouTube channel. Even though I don't think he makes any money off of it because he's a well-paid actor. I still wanted to go ahead and share that because it's only right. It is the source, and I am attempting to cite it. So, let's go ahead and let it play out.
Won't you take your sunglasses off?
Oh, that's why it's so dark, huh? Boss? Is that you, Snake?
It's finished, huh?
What?
The new room.
Oh, the sauna?
It's not your style.
Huh?
I mean, isn't this a bit much? A sauna in Mother Base?
Boss, you were the one who approved it.
Yeah, I changed my mind during a mission. It's too expensive.
We've been through this before. We're using water from the ocean and saving energy. It's economic. And I thought since we have some Finnish soldiers on our side, that this might boost their morale. Hey, you want some soap? Catch.
No!
The sauna is popular with the staff, you know. You wait until it gets hot, and then you just pour out some water to create the steam. It's just like a Finnish sauna, and you can fit 20 people in here. So, Snake.
Yeah, I heard people have been injured in here.
Oh? That was just a bruise.
Just a bruise? I heard they won't recover for a month. Who was it anyway? I didn't get the full story.
Armadillo.
Were you here when it happened?
Oh, yeah, I mean, he just fell. You know, probably slipped on a bar of soap.
Slipped? Armadillo? Guy's built like a tank. He's got perfect posture. I've never seen him fall.
Yeah, well, he did fall. He fell, and all the birds that were resting on top of Mother Base went flying. Maybe he just got dizzy from all the steam.
I see. So the sauna made him fall, huh?
Boss?
Kaz.
Boss?
Is there anything you want to tell me?
About that, Snake. Are you going inside the sauna?
Sure. Lead the way. Show me how it's done.
Look at the steam.
That injury on your thigh.
Huh? What are you looking at?
Your whole body. Except the part you're covering with that towel. Kaz.
So this sauna is pretty refreshing. It beats all that dry tropical weather outside.
Yeah, so, Kaz, what are those leaves for?
They're called Vita. Leaves from Japanese white birch.
Vita?
You strike yourself with it. Like this. Stimulates blood circulation and gives you energy.
Let me see it.
Here.
This is good.
It was a bit too strong, boss.
Kaz, show me your back.
My back?
Yeah, get up and turn around.
Why, Snake?
Just take off the towel.
Snake? Where are you touching me?
It's not just your thigh that's injured. The injuries go all the way up to your ass. Looks like something clawed at it.
That's enough.
No, show me more. Turn around.
What?
Turn around.
That moment when this interview or this interrogation became incredibly awkward.
Snake.
Kaz, are you popular?
Snake, where are you touching?
Do you remember? In the early days of MSF, you asked me how many women I'd had. Or were you really asking how many of them you could make yours?
Oh.
It's been 2 years, so how many new girls have you had?
This many. Approximately.
That many? You have such a busy life, yet you still find the time to keep yourself popular with the ladies. Look, I'm not going to control everyone's love affairs. That's your responsibility. You're a free man.
I would expect nothing less, boss.
Yeah, however, I also believe it's important to not set a bad example for the rest of the staff. You understand that, right?
You're getting a bit red, boss. Maybe I should...
Kaz, you're the sub-commander here. You should have a little more common sense.
What?
Gazelle came to see me after a mission. She wanted to talk. She's good looking, isn't she?
Yeah.
Did you do it?
Did she say we did it?
She said she saw you with Swan. Seems like a shame someone so good looking working in a place like this.
Oh, they both...
You came in here with Swan for a shower, didn't you? Just the two of you, alone.
That hurt!
So what's it going to be? Soap play, huh? Are you still blaming the soap? The steam?
It was just a...
Talk.
I'm sorry. It wasn't planned.
Wasn't planned? Armadillo saw you both, didn't he? Saw you with his girlfriend. And I'd say he was pretty surprised to find you both in here. Armadillo. So proud. Built like a tank. But then, he just lost his balance, right? Just happened to fall and the birds went flying, huh? Vita. Two-timer. What the hell were you thinking? Whatever happened to chivalry?
Snake!
To think I even have to give you this sermon.
I'm sorry. I'm a bad person, I get it.
Yeah, but it wasn't just them, was it? Dolphin, Puma. Do you want me to beat you for all of them, too?
I didn't do anything.
You son of a bitch. I'm gonna beat you down. Don't you move a muscle.
Boss, calm down. Dolphin, Puma, Gazelle,
You're treating them like animals and forgetting that they're people.
Treating them like animals. Snake, you shouldn't be treating animals that way.
Wait!
Snake kick!
Please! Boss, neck!
Your body's hot.
You're hot too. I can feel it all over my body.
Also, I always forget about that part. Just because of the way that fucking Robin delivers that line. I can feel it all over my body! Fucking, oh my god. Shit.
Doesn't it feel good being out here in the fresh air? Think about it seriously, Kaz. It's either women or us.
Both. wrong with that?
Oh, nice punch. But it'll take more than that to take me down.
Impressive as always, boss.
What are you carrying there, Kaz? A Fulton recovery system. What do you intend to do with it?
How about a little flying, boss?
Listen, apologize to everyone. And try to be a little more careful.
Oh, okay.
And you're gonna clean the sauna for the next year.
Yes, boss.
Good. What are you all looking at?
Snake clearly doesn't trust Kaz 100%, so him supposedly being surprised about Paz and Professor Galvez's real identities in Ground Zeroes makes even less sense at this point. I wanted to back up to something I alluded to in the side-op regarding Huey Emmerich. It's possible that aside from his gross negligence of his child attempting to use him as a test subject for Sahelanthropus, as its cockpit was so small only a child could fit, that he really was innocent in the murder of Dr. Strangelove, who according to the Collector's Edition art book, was his wife. It is possible that he did indeed commit the murder, then commit suicide while floating aimlessly in the ocean on a life raft. And that would fit perfectly both with Hal's explanation of his suicide and even with the themes of Death Stranding, but I want to play the devil's advocate here for a minute. He was a scientist, but he likely had no real concept of raising children, hence his stupidity of even suggesting using Hal for testing. However, due to his condition being born without the use of his legs, and his cowardly nature, I severely doubt his capability to not only get her into the mammal pod, but also have the balls to kill her. She may have used him, and that would certainly be a motive, but she did also give birth to his only child, who he should have been there for. That was his biggest crime to me, was killing himself instead of being there for his son. At least in my eyes.
That that might be a possibility, but yeah, I also don't know. You might be able to find out if you look it up, but as far as I know, YouTube's stream functionality is rather simplified. At some point I do want to do Twitch streaming, but I'm going to wait until I can afford to pay for the XSplit membership. That way I can stream to YouTube and Twitch simultaneously. And by that point, I will have a better computer to be able to handle streaming better. So, yeah, we should also be able to potentially have local source file recordings instead of just having to download the streams like I've been doing for the edits so far. But hang on. If Kojima was a shareholder of Konami, I would honestly like to see that information. Like if you got a link, no joke, that'd be awesome.
I listened to all the tapes from Huey, Strangelove Paz, and even the briefing with Peace Walker, but I found no evidence of anything else that really condemns Huey much other than being a bit of a cheat in terms of how he gets his success in robotics. I think his main issue is cowardice, hence suicide when faced with himself. Certainly be a motive, but she did also give birth to his only child, who he should have been there for. That was his biggest crime to me, was killing himself instead of being there for his son. At least in my eyes. I listened to all the tapes from Huey, Strangelove Paz, and even the briefing with Peace Walker, but I found no evidence of anything else that really condemns Huey much other than being a bit of a cheat in terms of how he gets his success in robotics. I think his main issue is cowardice, hence suicide when faced with himself. This theory of traumas being
Not really sure what happened there, but I apologize for that.
Manifested in the simulation doesn't just stop there, it keeps going. Leading into Ground Zeroes, I'd like to discuss Project Ogre. This paragraph was written directly by Cypher with some modifications by me for reading aloud, and does a great job of explaining what Project Ogre is seeming to be at this point. There's a Japanese folktale that's about a red and a blue ogre. When you think about it, Konami is the red ogre, a lonely, misunderstood beast who'd only had his brash instinct as a means of communication, in the end only wanting people to like him. However, due to the red ogre's nature, people feared him and despised him. Kojima, on the other hand, is the blue ogre, the friend of red ogre, or Konami. The ogre of thoughtfulness and serenity, cunning and resolution. The two ogres' opposites allowed them to become great friends, and Kojima was made vice president of their digital arm. Then one day, the blue ogre, Kojima, asked for his friend, the red ogre, to run him out of town. It was all the blue ogre's plan, and in the end, whilst the two stayed friends, the blue ogre left in isolation. In other words, Kojima formed his new studio, leaving Konami, the red ogre alone again. The red ogre, curious of the blue ogre's absence, scoured the world day and night for his friend. As Python and Selkin have pointed to in some of their videos, namely the Ultimate MGSV analysis, it seems that Big Boss is stuck in this virtual purgatory, forced to relive memories extracted from his brain, as well as Gray Fox's. You can check out their videos covering the pictures, commissioned by Jordan Vogt Roberts, but I did a much more thorough job in part 2.5. I covered this picture which seems to be Gray Fox committing seppuku, a form of a warrior's death to retain their honor. In this picture, you can see the grids of the simulation confirming these theories unofficially, as well as it matching the scenery in MGSV, which Python and Selkin did point to. The simulation of MGSV seems to be based in the concept shown in the movie source code. Okay, that they made comparisons to where pilot Coulter Stevens has been lethally maimed and is living on life support through what initially seemed to be a virtual simulation connected directly to his brain. He's being made to go back into someone's memories, which turns out to be essentially a bridge to other realities, where now Coulter Stevens takes on the persona of Sean Fentress, a man who dies in 8 minutes from the memory of his death. At the end of the movie, Coulter is able to disable both of the bombs, stop the bomber, and create essentially a time paradox, but instead of that causing time and space to fold in on itself or just the simulation to end, it ends up creating an entire other reality. This is the same theory that is used to justify the pseudo-historical recreations such as Deja Vu and Jamais Vu, and the other side ops, that these events happened in a world created from paradox after paradox. Next, I'd like to share a few theories from Absolutely Nuclear on the NBGO subreddit. I tried asking him for permission and got no response, but I figure it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission in this case, since I didn't get a response for several months and the topic is actually over a year old. He'll get a link to it in a PM after this is up, and I'll explain that I did try and ask for permission several months ago, but never got a response and decided to make these findings more public, as I feel it's not only important to the ruse, but to my audience who may not use Reddit. You'll find a link in the description for a full write-up. I'm personally finding myself going on it less and less lately, but it still is a great source of info for the ruse. Anyway, here it is, a 3-part write-up by Absolutely Nuclear. Enjoy. 1984 by George Orwell is one of Kojima's obvious inspirations for not only this game, but MGS2 as well. It is referenced repeatedly throughout the game, and its themes are used periodically throughout the series. But the specific theme I will be focusing on is the theme of what truth is. 1984 takes place in the Patriots AI wish to control the flow of information in MGS2.
Right. You seem to think that our plan is one of censorship.
Are you telling me it's not?
I didn't mean to hit the that button. I just wanted to unmute myself for a second so I could explain this really quick. If you guys didn't notice, this is a very subtle thing to notice. Hang on. Not quite far enough.